However, what happened was not a retaliation. It was an outpouring of love. It was a roar of love that came out. And there was a hashtag that went all over social media. 150,000 people put the hashtag IWillRideWithYou on social media. So they were offering to ride public transport with the Muslim people so that they would arrive at their destination safely.
This is Chocolate and Coffee Break, a compassionate proposition, a space to share stories, bridge divides, and spark meaningful connections. So grab your chocolate, pour your cuppa, and let's break down barriers, one conversation at a time. And now, here's your host, Andrea Putting.
Welcome to another episode of Chocolate and Coffee Break, and I hope you've got your chocolate and you've got your favourite brew and you're ready to listen to another fabulous, I hope, episode. Now, while I normally have a guest with me, today I have an empty seat. So sometimes turning up for yourself is the hardest thing to do. And it's great when we turn up and we have a conversation with somebody and share that experience. But then again, we also need to show up for ourselves, to say that I have this commitment and I'm going to be the best that I can, even if I'm on my own. So today we're going to talk to me. I'm talking to myself, which can always be fun. Anyway, I would like to, as I always start with, a question from my little heart opener question. I'm going to start with one today. And this is my magic question. So my magic question is, if there was one thing for you to fight for, what would it be? Now, before I answer that, I'm going to tell you why it's my magic question. It's one that I realize shaped a lot of what I do. And what is it that you fight for is not about, a lot of people say to me, why do you use that question? I'm not a fighter. My mother said that to me, but I'm not a fighter. And I can tell you, if there is anyone who is not a fighter in this world, it is me. My husband and I don't even fight. And after 43 years, it's kind of amazing. We don't fight. We disagree, but we don't fight. And I just don't fight. I'm not someone who stands up and I'm just not a fighter. However, if there's one thing that you would fight for, one thing that would take you over that you would fight for, what is that thing that would take you out of your comfort zone and go, look, this is just too much. I need to fight for it. So that is an incredible question. And I found when I was first asked this question, the answer I came up with, I didn't realize to some time later, is what created the values of what I do today. So when I answer the question, that will make sense. So when I was first asked this question, the answer was I would fight for spiritual equality. To me, it's really important that people of all religions, all faiths, all spiritual backgrounds are able to worship in the way that they want to live their own culture with their religion in the way they do. And right now, there's nothing more important than we do that. But as I've developed in this whole storyline of chocolate and coffee, I realized that it's stronger than that. It goes further than that. It's about the worth of all persons, for every person. Every person has something of value to give. Every person is worthwhile. They have their place on this earth. They have something that we can bring out and discover in them that can help them feel worthy and for them to become a valuable person in society. And what I also think is so important, we talk about everyone being equal, and we can fight for that. We can say that. But when we look at the situation, we can say that somebody is equal, yet their situation can be completely unequal. So it's about equity in life, equity in having that place that they feel safe, that they have all the things that we all, basic things that we need in life: food, water, medical care, a place to belong. When we all have this equality in lifestyle, in human rights, then that is equity as well. So now I go, well, this is what I fight for. This is what this show is all about, and this is what the whole chocolate and coffee break movement is, and what it is about for me. So I really want that level to come into everything that I do. And there's also a question: what if there was one thing for you to fight for, what could it be? This is also a question that I asked on every episode of a previous podcast that I did, Social Mission Revolution. And that was all about talking to people about their social impact. What is it that they're doing in the world that makes a difference? And it was an absolutely beautiful series, and I love talking to people about that and discovering those things that they are doing. And what was really important to me with that is that in a world that is divided, in a world that is going through all sorts of turmoil, and people can be stuck watching the news, they can be stuck watching a whole lot of different things and hearing this constant barrage of bad things, I wanted to point out that if we look in a different direction, what we can see is some beautiful things, some great things that people are doing in the world. And there are just so many amazing stories on that show that I could sit here for the whole half hour and just tell you those stories, but that's not what I'm going to do. And that was also the background to two of the books that I wrote: Compassionate Purpose, Discovering a Life of Fulfillment, and Compassionate Prosperity, When Success is Not Enough. So in those books, I do go into the series and talk about those and share some of those stories and how that can influence your life and how that can help you to find what it is that you can do in the world, how you can have your personal impact, have your compassionate purpose in life. So then one was for personal and one was for business. And it was wonderful writing those books and revisiting all of those episodes again of the show. So that's where that all is. That question to me, like I said, is just so important. And it's something that is worth everyone pondering. So there's a whole lot of other things that you can do to help you get there before you ask this dynamic question, because that's what happened in my life. I was also doing a lot of personal development and looking at my values and my stories and all the things that were important to me, the things that made who I am. And then when I found this, at the end of it, I found this question of what that led back to the question that I'd been passed previously of, if there was one thing for you to fight for, what would it be? And they all mixed in beautifully together. And now I look at that question and go, well, it's really about what your heart says to you. It's what draws the most important thing. It's not what you do. It's It's not all these other things. You can put all of those aside and say, what is my heart calling me to do? And this is the question that has that answer. So please ask yourself that question. Think about it and really sit with that, and you will find some magic. Like I said, it's a magical question. So I love to share that with people. When they're stuck on what they're going to do with the world, would do their life, that is the question that helps to bring out the most important thing for them that they can really make a difference in. And now, before I go any further, let's jump into a chocolate break, because that's what I love to do on this show. I encourage you to share and sit and enjoy. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the show. So let's listen to some of my wonderful sponsors as we nibble, subscribe, and like.
When I hit perimenopause, all I heard was doom and decline, until I took a sacred pause and I went searching for women who are radiant after menopause, like Dr. Christiane Northrup, Dr. Vandana Shiva, and the late Dr. Gladys McGarry, still shining at 103. In this book, I share their stories and wisdom and the magic that menopause truly holds. 7 Wonders of Menopause is a sacred reminder. You're not ending, you're returning. Available at independent bookshops in Australia and Amazon around the world.
Did you know that only 30% of speakers are women and that only 13% of panels feature women? In order to change that, there is now a directory at womenspeakers.com.au where you can go and search for a speaker. We also have groups on Facebook and LinkedIn under the name Australian Women Speakers, where you can just go and post about your event and women will respond.
And we're back with Chocolate and Coffee Break and talking to me today, Andrea Putting. So I hope you are getting some value out of listening to me and my story and what's important to me. So an important question with Chocolate and Coffee Break is that people want to know where it started and why is it chocolate and coffee. So I think I should share with you just what the show is, where that all started. So I've been talking about chocolate and coffee as a healing for division for the last 10 years. And it was my response to an event that happened 11 years ago. It was an event that I sat in my home office and I was on my computer and I was working away, and I looked down and saw this event unfolding. So I went to the news service to watch it. Now, this was December the 15th, 2014. And what was happening was that a gunman who was a Muslim, and he took a chocolate and coffee cafe under hostage. So all of the patrons, the staff, everyone that was in there was taken hostage. Now, and while I say he was a Muslim, I don't normally talk like that, but in this case, it's relevant. He was claiming to do this in the name of Allah. He wanted an ISIS flag. He had that up in the window, and he was saying that, I'm doing this in the name of Allah, and this is the right thing for me to do. Makes no sense if you really think about it. So what happened was that the hostages were held for many, many hours, almost a day. And sadly, in the aftermath, 2 innocent victims and the gunman were left dead. Now, there was great fear in Sydney and around the country. Now, I don't live in Sydney, I live in Melbourne. But around the country, there was fear that this would the reaction of people would be a retaliation against the Muslim community for this. The Muslims were seen to be taking off their religious garb, and many of them were just staying home. They were afraid that they had a target on their back. So we collectively held our breath. However, what happened was not a retaliation. It was an outpouring of love. It was a roar of love that came out. And there was a hashtag that went all over social media. 150,000 people put the hashtag IWillRideWithYou on social media. So they were offering to ride public transport with the Muslim people so that they would arrive at their destination safely. Now, this was a beautiful moment, and while we had a tragedy, this moment brought out the best of people. It was like the country was standing up and saying, "We don't hate you. We love you. You're a part of our community. We love and respect you. We want you here. This is not your fault." And it just stayed with me as being an important message. And I realized that all the rest of the time, we are a silent minority. Most people want to live in this peaceful community and welcome people of different races, different religions, different cultures, different sexual orientation, the whole thing. Most people are kind and generous and loving. So why aren't we standing up? Why isn't it our voices that are heard above the hate? So we have to let love be the loudest voice. So then this sat with me for several months, and I just thought, well, where is the change? Where is what's happening? And so I said to my mum one day, I was on the phone to her, "When's chocolate and coffee day?" And she said, "I've never heard of it." And I was like, oh, damn, I have to start that. And so in December the 15th, 2015, I started Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony. Now, the concept is so simple. Simply invite someone different to you, different religion, culture, whatever, and share a chocolate and a coffee and listen to each other's stories. Because this is when we break down barriers, when we get to know somebody else, when we hear their story and we can start walking in their shoes. Now, there is research that proves if you sit down with someone for just 1 hour, terrible differences can melt away. So, and not just to that one person, to that whole social group. So this is a really important thing. And so, chocolate and coffee break has developed from that, because do we really want to have just chocolate and coffee just once a year? No, let's bring it into our everyday life. Let's make this something we do regularly. Invite someone, we listen to each other's stories and encourage them to share who they are and what is important to them. And so we've developed on that, and lots of things have come out of it. It's been shared in so many different ways, and people want to know how and why and whatever, which is why I wrote the book, put the book together, Brewing Compassion, so that people could get a bit of a guideline on how and why. And it can be used in so many different ways, not just the one-on-one person is, which is the most important thing to me, is that one-on-one connection. But there are other ways of communities and schools and social groups and volunteer organisations. I can go on and list a whole lot of different ways that chocolate and coffee breaks has been used. So if you're interested, grab yourself a copy. Yeah, it's on the website. And so that's basically where chocolate and coffee comes from, and why I think it's so important, and why today we have Chocolate and Coffee Break, a compassionate proposition, because it is a compassionate proposition, and it's about sharing your compassion with somebody else. Now, people like to go, well, why is that important to you? And I really looked at this and tried to understand my own upbringing, because I'm a white Christian woman brought up in Australia. in the White Australia policy era. So I have never experienced prejudice. So that's something that's just sat with me. Well, why is this so important to me? Why is this values and so instilled in me that I want to sit here every week and talk to somebody about their story and listen to who they are and share it with the world. So what is it? And I often talk about beyond the white because, like, I'm a white Christian woman. I have no reason, I have no experience in being prejudiced. So then I'm going to talk more about that after the next break because I really need a drink. So I need my coffee break. And please listen to my sponsors who help to make this show happen.
Introducing 123 Read to Me. We give books to children who don't have books so they can succeed. Help us give away books to supported playgroups, kindergartens, schools, community events. Come and sort books. Donate money. $5 equals one book in the hand of a child. Because just one book a day creates clever, kind and confident kids. 123 Read to Me. If this interests you, let's talk.
You've ticked the boxes: career, commitments, calendar that's more packed than your pantry, but something's still missing. In Compassionate Purpose, Andrea Putting invites you to stop chasing busy and start living with intention. This book is about real fulfillment through small acts of compassion, purpose-driven service, and meaning that last. No pressure, no perfection, just purpose with heart. Compassionate Purpose, Discovering a Life of Fulfillment. Search for Andrea Putting on Amazon. And welcome back, and let's continue where we left off of where this all comes from. Where does the values come from? Well, because I've spoken about this so many times, and I had to really get into this. So what I realized is that when I was a little girl, my father created a flip chart book. Now, my father was not a writer, and he was definitely not an illustrator or anything like that, but he had an important message to share, and he wanted to share it with me and the children at Sunday school. So he created this flip chart book, and he did a cut and paste in the old-fashioned way, you know, actual scissors and glue and sticking the pictures onto the paper so that it would create a story. So the story was called "Why Do Some People Hate Me?" And it went something like this. And it was about a little girl, just like me, but not like me. So I loved to play dress-ups and go to parties. I loved to go to the playground and play with friends. I liked to play ball games and ride my bike, all these kind of things. And after each one of those, the next line was, "Why do some people hate me?" So I like to go to parties. Why do some people hate me? I like to sing songs, but why do some people hate me? And we get to the end of it, and we go to the second last page. It says, "But why do some people hate me?" And on the very last page, there was no words, just a picture of a little Aboriginal girl. And what can I say? That story sat with me. I heard it so many times in my childhood of this little girl. While she seemed so different to me, she was a black girl, whereas I'd never seen a black girl living in suburban Melbourne. Everyone was white and mostly Northern European. I had never seen a black girl, and I never understood. But my father kept that message in me of why do some people hate me? And I think I carried that with my whole life. And I look at that, and I look at that now and see that message running through everything that I do. The stories, the values. So from the original chocolate and coffee concept, it was, well, why do some people were saying, why do some people hate me and had to hide being Muslim? I've listened to stories of people on my shows and in person of, well, this is who I am, but I don't understand. Why do they don't say the words, but this is what it is. Why do some people hate me? And even last year, the year before now, I was in Sydney and I was waiting for a ferry, and I saw a family waiting as well with another couple of families, and they were Orthodox Jews, and the little children were playing, and one of the little girls, who's about 7 or 8, said to her friends, "Anti-Semitism is bad." Now, why should a little girl even know what anti-Semitism is? Why should she even be afraid of that? And can you imagine her parents saying, what would they say to her when she came to them and said, "Mom, Dad, why do some people hate me?" Imagine having to answer that question to your child. She's just a little girl. She should be free to play and explore and do all those wonderful things that children do and grow up and become a strong, independent woman. So without fearing that anything was going to happen to her, without fearing every day. And things have come worse in Sydney in recent times. There was another event in Sydney which attacked the Jews, and so she would be scared again. She wouldn't go to school without security guards. And why should children have to live like that? They shouldn't. They should be free to live and explore life the same way I did, the same way as maybe you did. So this message is something that's built in deep into me, and I think it's a really important one that I keep remembering, that I need to address that. I need to remember that story and go, well, that reminded me that someone who appears to be different to me really is so much the same. And so I started this episode saying that about an empty seat. So I wanted to bring that back because there is something else that I do. I am a volunteer community chaplain who goes into emergency situations. It's called emergency ministries, and it's part of the emergency plan in the state that I live in, that we have people who go to these events and offer personal support. So I've recently been at a bushfire relief centre where people had fled fires and were sitting there waiting to be returned safely. What I did, my job then, was to go and sit with people. I would see an empty chair next to somebody and I would sit with them and talk with them. And it wasn't about me offering to fix anybody or to fix their situation. It was about giving them that emotional support, just being present with them and saying to them, "You are important enough for me to listen here. You are so important that our state government has allowed us to come into these places just to sit with you and have these conversations and to hear what you're concerned about." And some people are really distressed and we spend some time talking with them. But a lot of people are just want us to talk about what they're doing, what's happened, where they've been left, what they've left behind. And a lot of that also is about connecting them with other people who care about them, that help them to feel like they belong. And some of them feel incredible sense of safety and belonging when they see somebody else walk into the centre who they know, another friend, and they feel so much better. And so I wanted to kind of put this into our Brew the Change challenge this week, take that time, look for an empty seat and sit down and talk with somebody. Now, I know not everybody, when you sit down with somebody, I know totally from experience, and you offer to have a conversation, not everybody wants to talk to you. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is, and you just have to accept that. But quite often people are happy to sit and have a conversation and share their stories with you. And it's about listening. Then make sure that you allow them to talk. Listen to their stories. Don't interrupt. Don't try to fix them. Just listen to who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what are the important things to them. And you can go and find some of my beautiful conversation starters. You can get them in the book. So download the book and there'll be a whole list of them you can use. And so that's a whole 30 minutes of me, and my mouth is dry and I want some more of my precious drink. And so until next time, I'd invite you to do that. And remember to always let love be the loudest voice.